الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد. In our previous class, we were discussing the issues related to the pillars of al-ruku' and as-sujud, the pillars of making the bowing, and along with that as well raising from the bowing, and also making the sujud, and along with that likewise raising from the sujud. We have seen in our previous class that al-ruku' is a pillar from the pillars of the salah, and also raising up from the ruku' as well is a pillar. The author, he mentioned al-ruku'u wal-raf'u minhu, to make the ruku' and then to raise from that. والرفع منه يعني حتى يعتدل قائما حتى ينتصب قائما, يعني meaning that he will raise up from the ruku', meaning raising up entirely until he's standing straight back up properly. So it's not sufficient just to raise, and this is not what is intended, but to raise back entirely until the person he is standing as he was before he went into ruku'. Just as has come in the hadith of Musi' as-Salah, the Prophet ﷺ, he told him, ثُمِ إِرْفَعْ حَتَّى تَعْتَدِلَ قَائِمًا, يعني after the ruku', قال ثُمَّ إِرْكَعْ حَتَّى تَعْتَدِلَ راكعا ثُمَّ إِرْفَعْ حَتَّى تَعْتَدِلَ قَائِمًا, that you should make the ruku' until you are flat and you are set in the ruku', in the bowing position, and then you raise back up until you're standing straight back up properly, So this is a point to mention with regards to that which has preceded. And we were discussing as well the issue of the sujud, and also raising up from the sujud as well is a pillar. As-sujudu wal-i'tidalu minhu, yani arafu minhu hatta ya'tadila jalisan, meaning that he will raise up from the sujud until he is sitting upright properly. And after this, the author, he mentioned وَالْجِلْسَةُ بَيْنَ السَّجْدَتَيْن, and also the sitting between the two prostrations. And we had discussed a number of issues with regards to this in our previous class, and the description, the minimum requirement for the ruku' and the perfection of the ruku', and likewise the minimum requirement of the sujud, as well as the perfection of the sujud. So to review, we see that with regards to the ruku' and the sujud, after learning that which is the minimum requirement, then from there we see that in order to perfect that is to implement these pillars in the manner displayed in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And from that is that whenever a person is in the ruku' or the sujud, he will make al-mujafat. He will make al-mujafat with his arms, meaning he will take his arms away from his sides. He will take his arms away from his sides. In our previous class, we had read the hadith of Abi Humayd as-Sa'idi radiyallahu anhu, and that wording in At-Tirmidhi mentioned that whenever he made the ruku' sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, رَكَعَ فَوَضَعَ يَدَيْهِ عَلَى رُكْبَتَيْهِ كَأَنَّهُ قَابِضٌ عَلَيْهِمَا وَوَتَّرَ يَدَيْهِ فَنَحَّاهُمَا عَنْ جَنْبَيْهِ, and that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whenever he made the ruku', he would grab onto his knees with his hands, like he's holding onto them, like he's grasping them, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, like he's grasping his knees. And then he would bow out his arms, and he would extend wattara yadayhi, and he making his arms like a bow in a curved manner, and then push them away from his side, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So this was the issue with regards to al-mujafat in the ruku'. So whenever a believer, he's making a ruku' in this manner, as we have seen, that he will go flat, his back will go flat and level with the ground, and likewise his head as well will be level. This is the perfection of the ruku', and along with that he will grasp onto his knees with his hands like he's holding them and grasping on them, and he will press his arms away from his side. He will not gather his arms together to his side and be bunched up. Rather, he will press the arms away from the side. So this is in the ruku' and also in the sujud. And also in the sujood, this wording here of the hadith of Abi Humayd radiallahu anhu was found in At-Tirmidhi, in Jami' At-Tirmidhi. And At-Tirmidhi, after this narration, he mentioned a beneficial comment. He says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي اخْتَارَهُ أَهْلُ الْعِلْمِ أَنْ يُجَافِيَ رَجُلُ يَدَيْهِ عَنْ جَنْبَيْهِ فِي الرُّكُوعِ وَالسُّجُودِ فِي الرُّكُوعِ وَالسُّجُودِ. And this is what the people of knowledge they have chosen, yani from these narrations and from the manner of performing this affair, and that is that a man, he will push his arms away from his side whenever he's in the ruku' and the sujood. Saying here a man, the people of knowledge likewise have clarified that the woman, she does the same thing. That the description of the prayer with regards to the male and the female is the same. And it has been mentioned from some of the scholars that the woman, she will pray slightly differently, or she performs some of the parts of the prayer slight differently, any in the manner or the description. But what is correct and Allah knows best is that the woman is like the man with regards to this, and there's no clear evidence clarifying that she will perform something different any from these outward movements and statements, from these outward statements and movements from the pillars and the description of the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of the pillars and the wajibat and the sunan and the description of the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So also it has been collected by Bukhari and Muslim from the hadith of Ibn Buhayna radiyallahu anhu أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان إذا صلى فرج بين يديه حتى يبدو بياض إبطيه. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he would pray, and what is intended here and clarified in other narrations, إذا سجد, whenever the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he would pray, meaning whenever he would be in sujood in his prayer, he would open up his arms, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning pushing them away from his side, until the white of his underarms could be seen, meaning the area in his underarms, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where the skin color would be lighter because it's not exposed to the sun. So this is to clarify as well that in sujood also is from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that one, he will extend his arms out and press them away from his side, Even so much so has been narrated also by Imam Muslim and connected as well by Abu Dawood. And we have the wording of Abu Dawood from the hadith of Maymuna radiyallahu anha أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يجافي يديه حتى لو أن بهمة أرادت تمر من تحته لمرت. That she says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he was in sujood, that he would push his arms away from his side, so much so that if a small sheep wanted to go underneath him, it would be able to go underneath him. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would press his arms away from his side. And also he would raise up his body. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He would not be bunched up. To clarify, this is also what is connected in Al-Bukhari and Muslim from the hadith of Anas radiyallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "i'tadilu fi sujud. ولا يبسط أحدكم ذراعيه انبساط الكلب. That you should be upright, balanced. يعتدلوا في السجود, to be balanced, to be upright, proper in the sujood, and performing it in the manner legislated and prescribed. But the balanced manner is that one, he will perform the sujood in the manner displayed by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by placing all of those 7 body parts firmly on the ground. And then likewise by raising his thighs off of his calves, and by raising his stomach off of the thighs. And a person, he will have his head down and his back will be up and his bottom will be up, and he will not be bunched up. So his stomach will not touch the thighs, and nor will the thighs be touching the calves. The body parts will not be touching each other. His legs will not be touching each other. The thighs will not be touching his calves. And likewise his stomach, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will not be touching the top of his thighs. Rather, he will be up off of his body. And each part of his body, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will have a portion in the share of this worship and servitude. The hands and the forehead and the nose and the knees and the ends of the toes, and likewise the rest of the body as well. Each one is performed properly, and he's not bunched up, he's not in a lazy manner. Rather, he's set up in sujood. This is the manner displayed. اعتدلوا في السجود. So this is the meaning. ولا يبسط أحدكم ذراعيه انبساط الكلب. And that one of you should not extend his arms the way the dog extends his arms. And one of you should not extend his arms in the manner that the dog extends his arms. يعني لا يبسط يعني لا يفترش. لا يفترش افتراش الكلب. يعني another wording has come likewise clarifying this. And the dog, whenever the dog lays down, the dog will lay down with his forearms on the ground. His paws will be on the ground in front of him, and likewise his forearms will be laying on the ground. So this is something that the Prophet ﷺ had forbade in order to not do. So also in the sujood, a person, he will not put his palms on the ground and then lay his forearms on the ground likewise. Rather, his forearms will be off of the ground. So by laying the hands on the ground and the forearms on the ground, now in this manner he's going to become bunched up. His body is going to be bunched up, and many times likewise his stomach will be on top of his thighs and the likes like this. In any case, a person, whenever he makes sujood, his forearms will not be touching the ground. They will not be laying on the ground. Rather, they will be off of the ground. And the elbows, they will be up in the air and they will be out, extended. And likewise the person, his body will be up and his stomach will be away from his thighs, away from the top of his thighs, as well as his legs will be away from each other. He will be in this position. And this is the understanding. Now we see how Maymuna radiallahu anha, she mentioned the one who is in this type of sujood here, in this position, that a small sheep, if it wanted to, would be able to crawl under a person, be able to go under him in this manner, because he's not all bunched up, rather his body is spread out. And again, the people of Ramadan, as they mentioned, in this manner, every body part is taking its portion. Every body part is taking its portion of this great action of worship, and submission and surrender and humbleness before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also in Sunan Abi Dawood, from the hadith of Abi Humayd radiallahu anhu, in one wording he mentioned, وَإِذَا سَجَدَ فَرَّجَ بَيْنَ فَخِذَيْهِ غَيْرَ حَامِلٍ بَاطِنِهِ عَلَى شَيْءٍ مِنْ فَخِذَيْهِ. That whenever he would make the sujood, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he would spread his thighs apart. Meaning his knees would be spread apart and his thighs would be spread apart. He would not be bunched up together. The thighs would not be together in the sujood, rather the thighs would be spread apart. And likewise, he's not carrying any part of his body on his thighs. He's not carrying any part of his stomach on his thighs. So the stomach is raised up off of the thighs. So he's erected in this position. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we have mentioned before the status of this great action of worship. And this is from the peak of surrender and submission and humbleness and humility before Allah Azza wa Jal. That the highest part of the body, the head, and then after that the shoulders and the likes, will be the lowest part in this position. And the lower part of the body will even be erected in this manner. And his bottom will be up. His head will be down. His shoulders will be down. And his bottom will be up. And then likewise, along with that, the hands, they have a worship to perform and being placed firmly on the ground. And likewise, the fingers, they will be together and they will be facing in the direction of the Qiblah. Some people, in their extent of their elbows, they'll do it to a manner that it will turn their hands sideways. That now their hands are sideways. The hands, they should not go sideways. They should not go. The hands should not go inside. They should not be pointing inside, rather they should be pointing to the Qiblah. So this is something also to note here in the statement of Anas, or in the hadith of Anas, when the Prophet ﷺ said, اعتدلوا في السجود. اعتدلوا في السجود. You need to be balanced, to be moderate, and to not go to extremes, to not do one portion, to not let one portion of that sujood cause you to go to extremes in another. So he'll be balanced in the manner. So a person, likewise, whenever he is making the sujood, in order to be balanced, he will perform it in this manner, where his stomach is off of his thighs, and his thighs, the back of his legs are off of his calves, and the likes like this, and then his feet will be erected, his heels will be erected, and his toe, and they will be together, and the toes will be facing the Qiblah, and his hands, they will be facing the Qiblah, and the fingers will be together, and his arms will be away from his side, and the elbows will be up likewise, and his face will be firmly on the ground, with his nose, his forehead, and his nose placed on the ground. But he will not do this, and he's trying to get these body parts away from each other until the manner he's extended far out. Some people, they'll go to extremes and they'll extend far out. You'll find that generally the ranks here, we see that their lines or their ranks are set, and a person, he'll extend out any further. and he beyond the normal manner, extending his body out. So he will not bunch up and gather himself like a ball and bunch himself together. Nor would he extend out extremely far and the likes like that, rather moderate, in a moderate manner, where he has his stomach off of his thighs and his back is raised up, and to the extent that his thighs are also off of his calves, and each part of those 7 body parts are on the ground firmly, and his arms are away from his side, and he will perform it in this manner. He will perform it in this manner. So this is with regards to the mujafat. This is with regards to the mujafat. We have seen as well before that the Prophet ﷺ in the ruku', he will make it until he's flat. He will make it until he's flat, and his head likewise will be flat. In the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, لا يسوب رأسه ولا يشخص رأسه ولا يسوبه. He will not raise up his head nor would he lower his head. And neither would he go down or he would go up. And it has been collected by Ibn Majah from the hadith of Wabisa Ibn Ma'bad radiallahu anhu to emphasize this issue of making the ruku', the back flat. And we're discussing now the perfection of the ruku'. We already discussed the issue of the minimum requirement. So all of this now here is from the perfection of the ruku'. He says, رَأَيْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي فكان إذا ركع سوى ظهره حتى لو صب عليه الماء لاستقر. That he said, I saw the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam praying the salah, and whenever he would make the ruku', he would level out his back, so much so that if one were to pour water on his back, it would stay there, and it would stay there. It would remain there on his back. It would not fall off. It would not be leaning to one side or the other until the water would run off. Rather, the back is so flat that if one were to pour water there, the water would remain there in its place. The water would remain there in its place. So all of this is from the description of the sujood. All of this is from the description of the ruku' and the sujood. The people of knowledge, they mention important points, barakallahu fikum, with regards to this issue here specifically, and other issues as well, have the same understanding. This issue of the mujafat, as has preceded, and that which is related to this, from these aspects of sujood and ruku', this is all from the sunan, all from the sunan, and from the mustahabat, and from the perfection and the completion of the salah. So it's not a requirement for the salah to be correct. It's not a condition. It's not a pillar. It's not an obligation. These are affairs that one, he will bring them in order to perfect his salah, hoping to have a greater reward, hoping to draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by perfecting his prayer, seeking the pleasure of Allah azza wa jal. But if a person is ever in a situation where he is, if in order to perform one of these affairs from the sunnah, which is considered from the virtuous actions of the prayer, that's not an obligation nor a pillar. That's not a pillar nor obligation. If in order to do that he has to harm his brothers in the rank, at this time he will not do it. At this time he will not do it. The people of knowledge mentioned here as sunnah, and his sunnah here bimana al-fadila. And the sunnah here, what we're discussing now, is the fadila, and the actions, fada'il al-a'mal, the virtuous deeds, the virtuous actions in the prayer, that if one does them, it will make the prayer more complete and more perfect and have a greater reward. If in order to do this, a person, he has to harm somebody or to put somebody in an uncomfortable position or bother them and the likes like this, disturbing them in their prayer, then he will not do it. Then it's not from the sunnah now to perform that. Rather, this issue here, it stops whenever harm comes. And so maybe a person, for example, if he's in the ruku', he wants to practice this. He wants to extend his arms and his elbows from his side. But if he does that, he will have to push them under his brother or push them into the side of his brother. And in this manner, it could crowd his brother or the one who is praying next to him, crowding him and causing him to bunch up more than is required and necessary. So now he's harming the one who's next to him, thinking he's performing a sunnah. So we shouldn't let our diligence to apply the sunnah cause us to transgress the limits. So sometimes this is what shaitan, he will call to. If he sees a person, he's striving and he's making effort and he wants to implement the sunnah in all affairs of his life, then shaitan, he will try to call him to go to extremes. And this will happen to somebody if he does not have knowledge. If he does not have knowledge, if he does not have light, if he did not learn in the proper manner from the proper sources, he'll think he's applying the sunnah, but in reality he's harming the people. And he'll think that he's drawing near to Allah, but in reality he's performing an action that is not allowed. Harming the believers is not allowed. Harming the believers is not allowed. To put a believer in hardship or difficulty, or put pressure on him, or to bother him or disturb him, this is from the major sins. We have seen this in the book Al-Kibair. إِذَا الْمُسْلِمِينَ إِذَا الْمُسْلِمِينَ. So this is something that's not allowed. So he will not think that he's going to perform a sunnah, and then in doing that he's going to harm the people. He's going to harm the people. So the sunnah will not be applied here. Rather, the sunnah here is to not apply this aspect here. It's to not apply this aspect here. So if he's in the ruku' and he's not able to extend his arms away from his side like he normally does because it's crowded and there are people next to him, he will leave that and he will not attempt that. And this is the manner that is correct, and this is the sunnah here in this circumstance. Likewise, whenever one is in sujood as well. Whenever one is in sujood as well, it's the sunnah here and from the perfection of the sujood to put his arms out to his side as well. But many times whenever we're praying together in the ranks, they will be tight. And this is also something that's recommended. And from the perfection of the prayer, that the ranks, they will be tight. The ranks, they'll be tight. Also without crowding. And also without harming others. This is another issue to discuss. But here in the sujood, a person, he many times in congregation, he will not be able to practice the sunnah of al-mujafat. Not in the ruku' and not in the sujood. And not in the sujood. Sometimes if he were to do that, and he will force his elbows underneath his brother. He will have to force his elbows underneath his brother. Even some of them, they'll go even so far, they'll extend out farther than his brother, the one next to him, and then he'll stick his elbows out over the top of him and set his brother's head underneath his arms. And now he's setting his brother's head underneath his arms, and the likes like this. And this is not the proper mujafat. Rather, this is closer to al-jafat. Al-jafat, not mujafat. Al-jafat is being rude. Is being rude and having bad manners. So if he doesn't have this knowledge of how to perform these affairs, he'll think that he's doing something good, but in reality he's harming the people. And the one who harms the people, he's only harming himself. And the one who's harming the people, in turn, likewise, he's harming himself. So he will not do it in this manner. Rather, if he's able to extend his arms, he will extend it, some without harming his neighbor. If he's not able to do it, he will make the prostration in the manner that he's able to prostrate. As for whenever one is praying alone, or if somebody is the imam, for example, then he will perform all of these descriptions here to the best of his ability, raising out his arms, pressing out his arms in the ruku' and the sujood, and the likes, and performing it in the best manner that he is able, and performing it in the best manner that he is able. Also from the description of the sujood is that the heels, they will be together and the toes, they will face the Qiblah. That the heels, they will be together and the toes, they will face the Qiblah and the sujood. And it has been collected by Al-Imam Muslim from the hadith Aisha radiallahu anha. And it has been collected by Imam Muslim from the hadith Aisha radiallahu anha. She says, فَقَدْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَمَ لَيْلَةً مِنَ الْفِرَاشِ فَالْتَمَسْتُهُ فَوَقَعَتْ يَدَيَّ عَلَى بَطْنِ قَدَمَيْهِ وَهُوَ فِي الْمَسْجِدِ يعني وَهُوَ ساجد. This is the meaning. وَهُمَا مَنْسُوبَتَانِ. So Aisha radiallahu anha, she's mentioning that one night she was looking for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam in their house, and in the bed. She's in the bed, and she's looking for the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam from where she's at in their home, and she started looking for him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and her hand fell on his heels sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Her hand fell on the bottom of both of his feet. And he's in sujood. And he's in prostration, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَهُمَا مَنْسُوبَتَانِ. And both of them are erected in the air. So the people of knowledge, they have mentioned here that this is from the description of the sujood. And because the only way that her hand, radiallahu anha, will be able to fall on both of the feet, and on the bottom of both of his feet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is if they were together. Clearly, and she's looking for him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and it's known likewise that the house is dark, and obviously it's so dark that she cannot see him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She cannot see him, so she's looking for him with her hand until her hand touches the bottom of his feet, both of them, the bottom of his 2 feet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and the 2 feet, they're erected, and he's in sujood. and he's in sujood, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so from here, the people of knowledge, they mention that also from the sunnah in the description of the sujood is that the feet, they will be together. The heels, they will be together. They will not be spread apart. And this is the evidence for that and the aspect of that evidence. And also in Sahih ibn Khuzaymah, rahimahullah, from one wording, in one wording she says, Rasan qadamayhi. Rasan qadamayhi, and he's sticking his feet together. And he clarifying even in more detail. Sticking his feet together. So the feet in the sujood, they'll be stuck together. They will be stuck together. Also collected by Al-Bukhari from the hadith of Abi Humayd. Abu Humayd al-Sa'idi radiyallahu anhu, he's from those who narrated the description of the prayer. There are certain companions who narrated in great detail a number of narrations with regards to the description of the prayer of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From them, Abu Humayd al-Sa'idi radiyallahu anhu. In this one wording here in Al-Bukhari, he says, with regards to the sujood, وَيَسْتَقْبِلُ بِأَطْرَافِ أَصَابِعِ رِجْلَيْهِ الْقِبْلَةَ وَيَسْتَقْبِلُ بِأَطْرَافِ أَصَابِعِ رِجْلَيْهِ الْقِبْلَةَ. And he will face the ends of his toes, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, towards the Qiblah. That he would face the ends of his toes, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, towards the Qiblah. So we see here that the heels, they will be together. The heels, they will be together and they will be erected. And the toes, they will be facing the Qiblah. And the toes, they will be facing the Qiblah. And so the toes, they will be bent. Until this is what it's in the atraf as-sabi' rijlayhi. And the ends, meaning the tips of the toes. The tips of the toes, they will be facing the Qiblah. So his toes, they will be bent. So his toes, they will be bent, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his feet will be erected. And his heels will be in the air, and they will be together. And they'll be together. All of this here is from the description of the sujood. It's from the perfection of the sujood. Again, in studying these affairs, remember the narration of Malik ibn Huwayrith radiyallahu anhu, whenever in Sahih Bukhari, whenever the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, وَصَلُّوا كَمَا رَأَيْتُمُونِي أُصَلِّي, and pray in the manner you have seen me pray. So a believer, he'll be diligent with regards to that and strive. But also knowing these rulings, which one is a condition, which one is a pillar, which one is an obligation, which one is recommended, and from the completion of the prayer will benefit him in different circumstances and situations. Knowing how to perform it properly, or how to perform it in the basic manner, or how to perfect it, or how to rectify it if something happens. So this is very beneficial. So one should strive to the best of the ability, whether it's an obligation or whether it's not, whether it's a pillar or whether it's not, to perform it according to the way the Prophet ﷺ displayed, because this description was revealed to him. Umirtu an asjuda ala sab'ati a'zum. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, I was ordered to prostrate on 7 bones. So this is from the description of the prayer the Prophet was ordered with, ﷺ, meaning Allah, He ordered him to prostrate in this manner. And He ordered him to stand and to recite and to bow and to make ruku'. All of the description of the prayer is revelation from Allah Azza wa Jal. He's clarified how to establish that in His Sunnah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. From here, a number of the people of knowledge, they mentioned that in the sujood, the description here is that the feet, the toes, they will face the Qiblah. So a number of people of knowledge, they have mentioned that this is an evidence that in the prayer, it's recommended for a person to face the Qiblah as much as he can with his entire body. Whatever he can from his body, he should face the Qiblah with that. He should turn that into the direction of the Qiblah. Whatever he can. Clearly, his face is easy, his chest is easy, but likewise, the feet and the toes. And here, it's clear that that's the way in the sujood. But now from there also we understand when one is standing, when one is in qiyam, when one is in the standing position, he will not stand with his feet facing out to the right and to the left, nor will he stand with his feet facing in with the left and to the right, and he will not stand with his feet facing out away from his body, nor will he stand facing in with his feet like a triangle and the likes like this. All of this is incorrect and not from al-i'tidal in the prayer. Not from al-i'tidal in the prayer. Rather, the person, he will stand with his feet facing the Qiblah. Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentioned in the book of Salah, he mentioned a chapter. He says, Babu fadli istiqbal al-qiblati yastaqbilu bi atraf rijlayhi. The virtue of facing the Qiblah. And we know that facing the Qiblah is a condition for for the salah, and we have seen details with regards to that. So the fact that he's saying that it's the virtue doesn't mean it's not an obligation, just clarifying the virtue of this affair. Facing the Qiblah, meaning in the prayer. يَسْتَقْبِلُ بِأَطْرَافِ رِجْلَيْهِ, and he will face the ends of his toes in the direction of the Qiblah. This is the title chapter. So we know as well that the understanding of Al-Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala of the fiqh of the hadith is in these chapter titles. So he's telling us that a person, whenever he's in the prayer, because of the virtue of facing the Qiblah, that his feet, they will face the Qiblah. And regardless of whether he's in sujood or whether he is standing, he will be facing with his feet in the direction of the Qiblah. After this, he mentioned the narration of Anas radiallahu anhu. He says, "Man salla," he said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Man salla salatana wastaqbala qiblatana wa akala dhabihatana فذلك المسلم الذي له ذمة الله وذمة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم فلا تغفر الله في ذمته." So he mentioned this narration, which has a number of benefits, but the point of evidence for Al-Bukhari rahimahullah, he says that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, whoever prays our prayer, whoever prays our salah, and in the manner that we pray, and he faces our qibla, and he eats our slaughtered meat, then this one he's a Muslim. And he has the protection of Allah and the covenant of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So do not violate the rights of Allah with regards to that covenant. And in reference to the blood and the honor of a believer. If it's established that he's a Muslim, he has rights with Allah Azza wa Jalla, and he has a status and a rank and a covenant with Allah Azza wa Jalla. It cannot be violated. It should not be violated. So the point is here, he says that وَاسْتَقْبَلَ قِبْلَتَنَا. So he's understanding this in a general understanding, and he faces our qibla. So from here he mentioned that the virtue of the qibla, and likewise facing the qibla with the feet, meaning in the salah. So now we discuss this issue here of standing in the prayer. And it's very important. Standing in the prayer, we see now that the manner of standing in the prayer, the feet, they will face the qibla. The feet, a person's toes, they will face the qibla. He will not stand with his feet sideways, one pointing this way and the other pointing that way, not outward and not inward. So the feet, they face the qibla. Likewise, a person, he will stand moderate, meaning that his feet will be in line with his body, in line with his shoulders. His feet will not be wide, far apart, and neither will they be tight together in the qiyam position, in the standing position. He will not put his feet together and stand, nor will he spread his feet far away outside of his shoulder length. Rather, he will stand moderately. He will stand between that. And this is the way of the sunnah. So again, how does he stand? Because we find some people, they stand with their feet this way. Other people, they stand with their feet this way, like he's a triangle. Some of them, they stand with one foot one way and another foot another way. And some of them, they think that they're applying a sunnah in doing this, and they're not. So the issue is the feet, they face the qibla, in the direction of the qibla, the same direction as the chest, the same direction as the face. And in the same direction, he'll place his feet straight, and they will not be far apart, and they will not be close together. Rather, they'll be moderate along with his body, along with his shoulders. From here we have the issue of taswiyat as-sufuf, lining up in the ranks. Because from here we have to understand. And first and foremost, when we line up for the ranks, for example, the imam, he stands in the front, and it's considered that he will stand in the middle. If there are people praying behind him, the imam, he's going to be in the middle of the rank. So the one who's going to start the rank behind the imam, where does he start? On the far right. The right is virtuous. Or on the far left. What does he start? Behind the imam. The rank, it starts behind the first row, it starts behind the imam. Then the rank, it fills up from the right into the left. Generally, the right side is more virtuous. But that's whenever there's balance. The right side is generally more virtuous, and being closer to the imam likewise is more virtuous. But being on the right side will not be more virtuous if the left side is light. So if a person is coming and the right side is heavy and the left side is light, then he will go to the left side to balance the sides out. So he won't say, no, well, the right side is more virtuous. Or if the right side, for example, is fuller and he can be closer to the right next to the imam, for example, closer to the imam on the left side, then there's issues here. So there's general understanding the right side is more virtuous. Likewise, being close to the imam is more virtuous. In any case, the point that I want to make now is that the rank begins behind the imam. Behind the imam. So the second rank, where does it begin? Behind the imam. So the one who comes to start the first row, he will start it behind the imam. The one who starts the second row, he starts it behind the imam. He will not start on the far right or on the far left. This is not correct. This is not correct. The ranks, they begin behind the imam. Then behind the imam, directly, this is the focal point of the rank. This is the center of the rank. So the rank, it extends from here. The rank, it extends from here. So also we have to see as well that whenever we make the ranks together, now the focal point for establishing the rank and closing the gaps is in the direction of the focal point, behind the imam, behind the imam. We understand this. So if there's gaps in the rank, if there's gaps between one person and another, sometimes, for example, if he's on the right side of the imam, if we're all facing the Qiblah, the imam is in front of us. Somebody's on the right side of the imam, and there's a gap on your right side. And that means that the person next to you is on his left side. And he tells you to come close to him. No, you tell him, you come close to me. And then now sometimes because people don't understand, he might get mad. Well, he's not obeying me. He's not listening to me. So, but you're not supposed to go to him. He's supposed to come to you. Because we have to move in tightening the ranks in the direction of the imam. So the one who's calling you to get close to him, away from the imam, he's wrong. That's not how you tighten the ranks. So the ranks, they begin behind the imam. And then the manner in closing the gaps is in the direction of the imam. So those who are on the right of the imam, they will move to the left. And those who are on the left of the imam, they will move to the right. They will move to the right. To close the gaps, do not move in the direction to the end of the rank. Rather, you move to the direction of the middle of the rank. There's a circumstance when possibly we may move to the ends of the rank, and this is whenever we find that the ranks are too tight. If the ranks are too tight, and the likes like this, maybe the imam, he will suggest to move to the ends of the ranks, and the other way. This is to bring space. This is to bring room. It's too tight. People are crowded in a harmful manner. So now we need to open up the rank a little bit, and in order for everyone to stand correctly. So then we'll move a little bit to the ends of the rank and to the direction of the ends of the rank. This will open up the rank for us. But whenever we want to close the gaps, we close the gap into the direction of the imam. So wherever the gap is, then it's closed by moving in the direction of the imam, not the other way. So whoever is closest to the imam, he doesn't move. The one who is further away from the imam, he is the one who closes the gap. Then also, barakallah fikum, in closing the gap, it's not with the feet only. Some people, they want to close the gap, so what does he do? He'll scoot his feet over. And now he's doing what? He's standing wide. Now he's standing wide. So he wants to close the gap, so he just scoot his feet over and extend his stance. Now he's standing abnormal. Now he's not standing in the proper manner. And also, in reality, it may seem at that moment he's tightening the ranks, but in reality it's going to make them wider and make the gap further. And the ranks, they are tightened and the gaps are closed with the feet and the shoulders. With the feet and the shoulders. So if the feet are together but the shoulders are not apart, there's gaps in the rank. There's gaps in the rank. So that's why we stand moderate, so that when we stand, our feet touch and our shoulders touch as well. So if the feet are together but the shoulders are not together, then there's a problem here. The shoulders, they have to be together along with the feet. So the one who closes the rank closes the gap by extending his feet further, then he's only making the gap actually wider. And whenever we go into sujood and he stands back up, the gap is bigger. The gap is bigger. He's making a bigger space, a more problem. So the way to close the gap is to move the whole body. You move your whole body, unless it's a small gap. If it's a small gap, you can just move your feet over. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a gap that requires for a person to move. So he will not only move his foot, he'll move his whole body. So he will take a step over, according to how big the gap is. He'll move his whole body. So the stance in the prayer is always the same. You stand with your feet facing the Qiblah, and a moderate stance with your feet about the side of your shoulders, even with your shoulders in the lights like this. And if you need to close the gap, you move that whole stance over until the gap is closed. You move the whole stance over until the gap is closed. So we will not just move our feet over. This is not closing the gap in reality. So the gaps are closed by closing the gap on top and on the bottom, with the feet and with the shoulders, with the feet and with the shoulders. So this is very important. Some people, they want to close the gap and they'll just stretch their feet apart. They'll spread their feet apart. So this is not helping. This is not helping. Or others, they'll stand like that. And in the first place, this is not proper. Rather, the feet, they will be in a moderate stance, not wide and not close. Not wide and not close. The feet, they will not be turned in this direction and that direction, not facing outward, not facing inward, not standing like a triangle, not one going this way, not one going that way, his toes going this way and toes going that way. This is not correct likewise. Rather, the feet, they will be facing in the direction of the Qibla. Inshallah, we continue this discussion tomorrow. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.